Okay, and welcome back. For this video, we are going to discuss actually bringing in assets from other programs, such as Maya, into Unity for the purposes of placing them into your scene. So, before we actually get into Maya, it's important to discuss the scaling differences that Unity and Maya hold. Maya, by default, works on a centimeter scale, whereas Unity by default works on a meter scale, meaning that anything you make in Maya by default is going to be really teeny tiny when you bring it into Unity. So let's go ahead and actually jump into Maya so you can see for yourself just what we do in terms of preparing a model to bring it into Unity itself. All right, I've gone ahead and opened Maya. This is an old asset that I created quite a few years ago at this point. I'm going to bring this into Unity, complete with its own textures and such. When it comes to things that you're going to be importing in, I'm not expecting for the first couple of weeks that your assets are going to have textures attached to them, at least not your own created assets. I don't expect those to have textures attached to them. For the purposes of this demo, though, I am going to show you how to bring in an asset that includes textures on it. That way you have an idea of what to do when you actually include textures for your own meshes. So here's my troll. Hello. So first thing we need to cover is the scaling issue. Again, Maya works in centimeters, Unity works in meters. We want to make sure that this is appropriately sized for when we bring it into Unity. We can scale it in Unity if we want to. That's perfectly acceptable. But it is a better idea to scale first in Maya. That way, when you bring it into Unity, you don't have to wonder where things are because they happen to be so teeny tiny. So one of the best ways you can properly scale something in Maya is by going up to Windows, going down to your content browser. You may find it here on its own, or you may find it under General Editors. We open up the content browser, and we will minimize that a little bit. Go ahead and there we go. Make it a little bit smaller so it's easier to see the regular scene as well. We want to make sure that we are in sculpting based meshes here. Bipeds, perfect. We're going to pick a regular person here, a regular body to compare and contrast to. We're going to drag that into the scene. There's the regular person. There's my troll. My troll is kind of small right now, so let's go ahead and actually take the model and just make it bigger. Something more appropriate to what you'd expect in this scenario. I'd expect the troll to be a bit bigger. Maybe we can slim it down a little bit. Not that much bigger. That's probably appropriate. That probably makes sense. Good. Wonderful. All right, so we don't need this sculpting base anymore. We can get rid of that. We can go back to our regular troll model here, and now we have all of these changes that we made. These translations and these scales. Let's go ahead and actually delete our history for the scale information here. We want to make sure we delete our history. If we don't, that will create problems in the future. So it's always good practice in Maya, whether you're doing this for game engine purposes or just for regular modeling purposes. After every few minutes of concentrated work, you want to make sure you delete your history. So edit, delete by type, history, modify, freeze, modify center, just in case. And there we go. Our asset is now all ready to go, all cleaned up, all ready for the game engine. Let's actually go ahead and export it out. Make sure we just select the model itself. I have a whole bunch of lights and a camera, but we don't need to bring those in with us. We just want to select the actual model itself. So I'm just going to select the model. I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to go to Export Selection. Right here, there's little options for the export selection. And for file type, we want to be FBX export. OBJ is okay, but if you do OBJ, there is a somewhat different process, a somewhat different workflow to getting your model into Unity. It's not that radically different, but for the purposes of this demo, we're just going to keep it simple with an FBX export. We're going to export our selection here. Before we do anything, we're going to find a nice place for this FBX file. I'm going to just select the desktop. I'm going to call it troll. Before moving on, you will notice that we have all these options here for the export. The one I specifically want to draw your attention to is called Embed Media. We want to make sure that is checked off. You will find Embed Media under the Include options, under File Type Specific options, And under Embed Media, you will find Embed Media. You want to make sure this box is checked off. And now we can export the selection. Give it a second. It's all ready to go. Let's jump back into Unity now. All right, so back in Unity, let's go ahead and get our troll in here. But first, let's actually go ahead and prepare a landing space for the troll. One of the most important things you will do when you're working in Unity is organization. You really, really want to make sure that from the beginning you are practicing good organization, especially in your project panel. We have all of these favorites here to track things down faster if we want to, but it's a much better idea for you to just get organized and create folders for all the things you're bringing in. Depending on the size of your project, you're going to be bringing in a lot of assets very rapidly, and you want to make sure you don't lose where those assets are within Unity, lest you bring in duplicates or you accidentally delete things that you thought you didn't need it, but it turns out you did need. You really want to make sure you practice proper organization as soon as possible in Unity. So in our project panel, we're going to right click. We're going to go to create. We're going to go up to the top to folder. We're going to call this folder Maya because we're bringing something in for Maya. We're going to double click and open up the Maya folder. And now we need to actually bring in our asset. There's a couple of ways to do that. We can literally just drag it in from wherever it is right now. It's in the desktop right now, so I can literally just drag it in from the desktop. Or I can just right click and go to import new asset. And go to the desktop here, find the troll, there it is, and just import it in. And there we go. There's our troll. Now, to actually put it into the scene itself, there's two ways of doing that. We can literally just take this and drag it into the scene. There's our troll, appropriately sized array. Or, I'm going to delete that with delete. Or I can put the troll in the hierarchy. Putting the troll in the hierarchy places it right in the center of the scene, which is great, because that's kind of where I want it. I'm going to go ahead and drag this over a little bit, put it in a nice position. Maybe we'll give it its own little corner here. E for rotate. Spin it around so we can see it. Maybe that way. Maybe I'll put it over here so that way the camera can catch it. There we go. That's nice. All right, and there is our troll. It's in. You'll notice it is untextured, but it's in. The only things that have color are the things that didn't have are the things that didn't directly have textures. So these eyes are green because instead of actually texturing them green, I just colored them green in Maya itself. But everything else is the regular material that you would get for all the other game objects. So let's go ahead and take a couple of minutes to just put in our to make sure we put in our textures, because I mean I did all that work for the textures. I might as well just put them in now, right? Again, for your purposes, you probably haven't created assets with textures at this early point in the course. Perhaps, maybe not. But just for the purposes of the demo, I'm going to show you real quick how to actually do that. So let's go ahead and select our troll here in the project panel. You will notice that because we checked off that little box called Embed Media, that we have these embedded materials. Specifically, the materials and the textures, we can extract those right now, so we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to start by extracting materials first. And I'm going to put those right next to the troll here. There we go. There's all the materials I used for my troll. And then I'm going to extract the textures. Again, same place, next to everything else. Before I actually attach these textures to my materials, I'm going to go ahead and do some more organization. So I'm going to create two more folders, one for materials and one for textures. And I'm going to place my texture files into the textures folder and my materials into the materials folder. Wonderful. So now let's actually attach these textures to the materials. Let's go into our materials folder. First things first is the cloth material. Again, from our previous video, you will recall we can actually lock in inspector settings so that we don't actually keep changing to different settings of different things. every time we select something different in our project panel or our scene panel. So I'm going to select the cloth. I'm going to lock it. I am going to jump back over to Maya and then go into the textures folder. And I'm going to pick this green chunks, which is the cloth. And I'm going to attach it to the albedo box here, which is the same as the base color. And there we go. We have ourselves the color for our for those green chunks, the cloth. Next, we're going to go back. We're going to go back into our materials. We're going to unlock this. We're going to select the next material, which is main body. We're going to lock that. Again, back to Maya, back to textures. Now we're going to take the skin. We're going to place that in the albedo box for that. We're going to unlock it. We're going to go back to Maya. We're going to go back to materials. We're going to go over to rocks. We're going to lock that in. Maya, textures, rocks. I'm going to attach that to the proper material. Going to unlock. Going back to Maya. Back to rope now. We're going to lock that in. Maya, textures, rope, attach. In this case, it's transparent for some reason, so we're going to change that to opaque. There we go. We're going to unlock that. Maya, materials, the skin for the arms. We're going to lock that in. We're going to go to textures, skin, and there we go. Exactly as it was in Maya, our troll is now here in the Unity game engine. Hooray! We can also see it, kind of. We can move our camera around a little bit to better place it in the scene, but that is how you bring in objects from another program like Maya and have them displayed in the Unity game engine. There are a multitude of ways to export from programs like Maya and import them into Unity. I'm going to be creating some short videos in the coming weeks on some more specific scenarios on how to export certain things that don't have textures attached, things that do have textures attached, exporting as OBJs, exporting through Maya's specific send to Unity feature. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. I'm going to be creating a series of shorter videos on how to do those more specific scenarios. But for now, this is the basic method of taking something from Maya and bringing it over into Unity. And that also concludes the material for week 2. So in this week, we navigated Unity, we navigated the 4 panels, we created some basic game objects, we did some very basic playing around with the settings of some of these objects. We brought in an object from Maya into Unity, and even got some basic exposure to the basics of bringing in and applying textures and materials to assets. I hope this was helpful to you. I will see you all next time.